is something magnetic about luxury. It commands attention without ever shouting. It speaks a language of elegance and quiet power, a language that says, I am rare and I know it. But let me tell you something, essential luxury isn't just about objects. It's a state of being. It's not about a designer label, a polished car, or a sparkling watch. True luxury begins with you. How you present yourself, how you carry yourself, how you make others feel in your presence. The world doesn't perceive you as valuable because you tell them you are. They perceive it because every detail about you whispers it. If you want to be seen as a luxury, you need to stop chasing approval and start becoming an experience. Today, I will share 6 powerful keys that will transform the way people see you so that when you walk into a room, the air changes. These are the principles followed by the world's most influential personalities. And if you master them, people will never forget you. What makes something truly desirable? It is never what is easily within reach. The human psyche is drawn to what it cannot immediately possess, to that which carries the whisper of mystery and the weight of rarity. A diamond, for example, holds no inherent magic. It is carbon like many other stones, and yet because it is rare, because it cannot be found on every street corner, it becomes a symbol of value, power, and permanence. The same principle governs how people perceive you. If you are constantly available, endlessly accommodating, always eager to blend in, your essence begins to fade into the background noise of the ordinary. There is a law of nature that operates in silence. What is abundant loses its allure, and what is scarce becomes magnetic. Luxury brands understand this truth deeply. They never place their finest creations on clearance racks, never flood the market. In an attempt to be liked by everyone, their strength lies in restraint, in the courage to say not for everyone, and so it must be with you. Do not sell yourself at the bargain counter of approval. Do not empty yourself out for anyone who demands your time, your attention, your energy. You might think generosity makes you loved, but in truth, overexposure makes you invisible. Speak less, but when you do, let your words of weight. Choose not to enter every conversation, not to attend every gathering, not to share every moment of your life for the fleeting currency of validation. Withhold something of yourself, not out of arrogance, but out of reverence for your own depth. Those who live in constant exposure soon become like the air, essential, yet unnoticed. But those who reserve themselves, who carry an inner world that is not for display, draw others in with the gravity of their mystery. Think of those rare individuals who walk into a room and command attention without uttering a word. It is not because they tried to be seen, it is because they are not exhausted by the need to be everywhere and everything. They know their worth, and so they do not spend it recklessly. There is dignity in selective presence. There is a quiet authority in being difficult to access. When people feel they cannot have all of you, they begin to value every moment they do. They lean in, they listen more closely, they measure their words because they sense something extraordinary, something not easily obtained, and when that happens, your presence becomes not just noticed, but anticipated. Your voice becomes not just heard, but remembered. This is not about playing games or withholding love out of fear. It is about recognizing that your essence is a rare resource and treating it as such. Do not confuse scarcity with isolation. It is not about cutting yourself off from the world, but about offering the world something that feels precious because is not given to everyone at all times. The paradox of desire is that the more you demand to be seen, the less you are truly seen. But when you become a soul of depth, a being who moves with intention and restraint, you ignite curiosity. You awaken longing. You create the quiet impression of something worth discovering. To live this way requires courage. It is easier to be everywhere, to scatter your energy in 1,000 directions, hoping someone will affirm you. But that is the way of the ordinary. The extraordinary choose the harder path to hold themselves with the same discipline as the finest art, the rarest wine, the most exquisite jewel. And when you do, you become what people do not forget, because rarity is not just a trait of luxury, it is the essence of human fascination. Luxury is not loud. It is never the voice that shouts for attention, never the presence that demands to be seen. True value is recognized without effort, without the noise of self-promotion. It is felt, not announced. There is a quiet force that radiates from a person who knows who they are and needs no external confirmation to exist fully. This is the art of presence, and it is far more powerful than words. When a person of true substance enters a room, something imperceptible changes in the atmosphere. They do not have to speak immediately. They do not need to decorate their arrival with grand gestures or exaggerated expressions. Their very being communicates strength, calmness, and authority. Have you ever observed such a person? The world bends toward them as if drawn by gravity. Not because they are loud, but because they are centered. Confidence and composure create this phenomenon, but these qualities cannot be faked for long. They are born from an inner stillness, a sense of harmony within oneself. Look at those who lead with grace, leaders like Barack Obama or icons like Angelina Jolie. When they enter a space, there is no frantic energy, no restless movement, no desperate attempt to capture attention. They move with intention as though time itself slows in their presence. Each gesture is measured, each glance deliberate, and because of this, they command attention without asking for it. This is not something reserved for the famous. It is available to anyone willing to cultivate it. The first step is to embrace silence, not fear it. Most people feel silence because they are uncomfortable with it. They fidget, they speak unnecessarily, they rush their words all in an attempt to erase the stillness. That feels unbearable. But the person who masters presence understands that silence is not emptiness. It is strength. When you can hold silence without anxiety, you send a message that you are grounded, that you do not need constant noise to validate your existence. Practice stillness in small ways. When you enter a room, do not hurry as though the world will collapse. If you do not speak first, pause. Allow yourself to feel the space before you claim it. Let your steps be steady, your breathing calm. Presence is not about dominating the room. It is about harmonizing with it in such a way that others feel the difference. When you arrive, your body speaks long before your words do. An open posture signals confidence without aggression. Shoulders relaxed, head held naturally, not stiffly, not arrogantly, but with quiet assurance. Eye contact is another language entirely. Too little and you seem unsure, too much and you appear forceful. The balance lies in holding someone's gaze with warmth, with a calm steadiness that says, I see you, without saying, I own you. And then there is the smile, not the artificial grin worn as a mask, but the rare, genuine smile that seems to arise from deep within. Such a smile disarms defenses because it feels real in a world. Drowning in pretense, presence is not merely about you, it is about what you create in others. When someone feels that in this moment nothing else matters but them, you have achieved something extraordinary, because most people live in fragments, half here, half lost in thought, half preparing their next move. The one who is fully present, who listens as though every word matters, who looks as though nothing else exists, that person becomes unforgettable. The paradox of presence is that it has nothing to do with trying to be impressive. The harder you try, the more it escapes you. It is born from inner alignment, from a state of mind where you are not performing for approval, but simply being. When you reach that state, you carry the essence of luxury within you. The essence of something rare, something people long to experience but cannot find everywhere. That is the art of presence, and it is worth more than any title, any possession, any noise you could ever make. Luxury is never chaotic. It does not need to scream to be seen. It does not rely on excess to prove its worth. Its strength lies in restraint, in a harmony so precise that every detail feels intentional. When you walk into the most refined spaces, you notice something striking. There is space to breathe. There is no clutter, no unnecessary ornamentation, no desperate attempt to impress. Why? Because true confidence does not hide beneath decoration. It thrives in clarity. Consider the world's most elegant interiors or the most iconic fashion houses. They are never burdened with too much. Instead, they allow simplicity to speak for them. Minimalism is not emptiness, it is mastery. It is the ability to remove everything that is not essential, so that what remains shines with unparalleled brilliance. This principle does not belong only to art, design, or architecture. It belongs to life itself. It belongs to you. When you step into the world each day, ask yourself, what am I saying through the way I appear, through the way I speak, through the way I live? Because make no mistake, every choice you make is a form of communication. If your choices are loud, inconsistent, and cluttered, people sense insecurity even if you never admit it. But when your presence is refined, when there is nothing excessive and yet everything feels deliberate, you radiate quiet power. Apply this to your appearance. You do not need extravagance to be memorable. You do not need to chase trends to seem relevant. True style is not in abundance, it is in curation. Choose garments that fit you with precision, that echo timelessness rather than screaming for attention. A tailored suit, a well-chosen dress, a pair of shoes that speak of care rather than cost. These do more for your presence than layers of excess ever could, because when you know your worth, you do not need to advertise it. But this truth extends beyond clothing. It lives in the way you use language. There is a temptation to over-explain, to fill every silence with words, to convince others of our intelligence by drowning them in information. Yet the greatest communicators understand that power lives in brevity. Let your words breathe, speak with clarity, not complexity. Say what matters and leave space for it to resonate. A sentence spoken with conviction carries more weight than a speech burdened with noise. As Coco Chanel once said, simplicity is the keynote of all true elegance. This applies not only to fashion, but to thought, to action, to life itself. Think of the conversations that stay with you. They are rarely the ones filled with endless detail and frantic explanations. They are the ones where a single phrase spoken at the right moment cuts through the noise and lingers in your mind. This is the essence of sophistication, to express the profound without drowning it in excess. The same law governs presence. The more you try to be seen, the less people truly see you. The more noise you make, the easier it is to fade into the background because noise is everywhere. But quiet confidence that is rare when you walk into a room without rushing, when you occupy space with calm, when your words arrive like measured strokes of a master painter rather than splashes of chaotic color, you draw attention without effort. Simplicity requires courage because it demands that you let go of all the unnecessary layers you use to feel safe. It asks you to trust that you, as you are refined, intentional, stripped of the superfluous, are enough, and you are. When you embrace this truth, you become magnetic. People lean in, not because you overwhelm them, but because you give them room to feel your presence. Sophistication in simplicity is not about deprivation, it is about focus. It is about choosing the essential over the endless, the meaningful over the decorative, the lasting over the loud. And in a world intoxicated by excess, that kind of restraint becomes the ultimate form of power. Luxury has a quality that cannot be replicated in bulk. It is not meant for everyone, and that is precisely why it holds value. It whispers rather than shouts. And in that whisper is an invitation to experience something deeply personal, something that cannot be found in 1,000 other places. This principle does not belong only to the world of objects. It applies to human connection. When people encounter you, they should feel that they have entered a space unlike any other, a space that cannot be duplicated. Think for a moment about the most renowned luxury hotels in the world, like the Ritz-Carlton. Guests do not go there simply to sleep. They go to feel the care in every detail, the way their name is remembered, the way their preferences are anticipated before they are voiced. It is not about offering a bed, it is about offering an experience that cannot be mass-produced, and so it must be with you. If every interaction you have feels generic, like a script repeated for anyone who crosses your path, you become forgettable. But if when someone enters your presence, they feel that they have stepped into something rare, something crafted for them alone, then you become unforgettable. This begins with listening, truly listening. Not the passive hearing that fills most conversations, but an active attention that makes the other person feel as if the world has stilled for them when they speak. Do not rush to respond. Do not drown their words with your own. Instead, hear not only what they say, but what they do not say. Notice the small details others overlook. The hesitation in their tone, the spark in their eyes when they mention a dream, the shadow that passes when they speak of a loss. These fragments reveal a truth. Most people are too distracted to see. And when you hold the truth with care, when you remember what matters to them and reflect it back in subtle ways, they feel something they rarely feel in a world obsessed with self-significance. But emotional exclusivity does not mean losing yourself to please others. It does not mean surrendering your boundaries for the sake of being liked. In fact, boundaries are what make this experience powerful. If you give yourself away too easily, if you allow anyone to consume your energy without discernment, you cease to be rare. The key is to offer depth without becoming desperate, to give attention without craving it in return. There is a quiet strength in making someone feel valued while never compromising the sanctity of your own inner space. Think of how rare it is to meet someone who listens without judgment, who asks questions not to pry but to understand, who remembers your story when the rest of the world has forgotten. Such people linger in memory because they awaken something deeply human in us, the need to be seen, truly seen without condition. When you can give that to someone, not as a strategy, but as an authentic expression of your being, you create an experience that no amount of wealth can buy. That is emotional exclusivity, and it is priceless. The paradox is that most people spend their lives seeking attention, scattering their energy across countless shallow connections, thinking that the more they give, the more they will be loved. But love, like luxury, does not bloom in abundance. It blooms in intention. It thrives where there is depth, where there is care, where there is something no one else can offer. You cannot be everywhere and expect to be valued, but you can be fully present with the few who matter and become irreplaceable in their eyes. Emotional exclusivity is not an act. It is an art. It is the art of presence, of memory, of restraint. It is knowing that the greatest gift you can give someone is not things, not promises, but the rare experience of feeling important in a world that rarely slows down to notice them do this, and your relationships will carry the quiet weight of luxury, the kind that leaves an imprint long after the moment has passed. Luxury never announces itself. It does not need to. Its strength lies in quiet, confidence in the details, so precise that they almost escape notice at first glance, yet they leave an undeniable impression on the soul. Consider the stitching on a Hermes bag. Flawless, deliberate, invisible to most, yet essential to its worth, or the gentle weight of a Mont Blanc pen as it rests in the hand, making writing feel like an art rather than a task. Think of the faint fragrance that lingers in the lobby of a grand hotel. A scent so carefully chosen that you cannot name it, yet it imprints itself on your memory. None of these things cry for attention, but they speak in whispers that are far more powerful than shouts. So it must be with you. Every element of your being communicates long before you speak. It does. So without your conscious awareness, unless you choose to master it, people often believe their influence lies in grand gestures or carefully crafted statements, but in truth, it is the subtle signals that define how the world perceives you, your tone of voice, the cadence of your words, the way you hold your body when you enter a room. These things speak louder than declarations ever will imagine saying no. There are countless ways to utter that simple word. It can be harsh, defensive, and create walls, or it can be firm yet gracious, leaving no room for doubt, yet allowing the other person to feel respected. The difference lies not in the word itself, but in the energy that carries it. This is what subtlety means, shaping the unseen currents that shape perception. Every detail matters: the way you sign your name in an email, the language you choose when addressing a colleague, the care you take in arranging your workspace. These are not trivial things. They are reflections of how deeply you respect yourself and the world around you. Even your fragrance, the one that lingers faintly as you pass, speaks a language no words can rival. It says you are attentive to what others overlook. It says you care about experience, not just appearance. Think about the people who leave lasting impressions on you. Rarely is it because they were the loudest or most flamboyant. More often it is because something about them felt intentional. The way they looked at you without distraction, the softness in their voice when they spoke your name, the way their presence seemed to elevate the space they occupied without effort. These are signals delicate, almost imperceptible, yet they carry the essence of refinement. To master this art is not to become artificial or calculated. It is not about perfection for its own sake. It is about alignment, when the small things are in harmony with the essence you wish to embody. Your influence deepens effortlessly. People will not always know why they are drawn to you, but they will feel it. They will feel that something about you resonates with grace, with composure, with depth, with subtlety. Requires awareness, and awareness requires intention. Too many rush through life unaware of the signals they send. They speak without thought, move without grace, act without reflection, and then wonder why they are not perceived as valuable. But the truth is simple. You cannot project what you have not cultivated within. If you wish to convey elegance, you must first live with elegance. If you wish to signal strength, you must first find strength in your center. Do not underestimate these micro details, for they shape the silent narrative others write about you. Luxury is never a single grand gesture. It is the sum of countless small choices executed with precision and care. So let your tone carry calm authority. Let your words reflect thought rather than impulse. Let your posture reveal quiet confidence rather than restless striving. Because long before you speak, the world is already listening. The highest expression of refinement lies not in what is seen, but in what is upheld when no one is watching. True value is never negotiable. Rolls-Royce does not dilute its essence to compete with the ordinary because the essence of luxury is immovable. It is this unshakable commitment that sets it apart from everything transient and in your life. This principle must live at the very center of your being. When you choose to hold your standards, you are not merely making decisions. You are shaping an identity. Each standard you embrace becomes a silent declaration of who you are and what you refuse to become. It is easy to announce principles when life is calm, but they find their real meaning. When tested in the storm, the temptation to compromise for approval is seductive, because validation feels like love. But it is not love, it is dependency dressed as affection, and it will drain you of the very essence that makes you whole. Standards are not chains, they are architecture. They are the invisible structure that gives shape to your spirit and direction to your path. Without them, life collapses into chaos. People without standards float endlessly, tossed by every wind of opinion, bending their will to fit the molds of others. There is nothing authentic about that. When you trade your essence for belonging, you do not gain acceptance. You lose yourself, and nothing is more tragic than a soul that abandons its own truth. For the comfort of conformity to hold standards requires courage, the kind that does not announce itself with noise, but breathes quietly in your decisions, in your choices, in the silent moments where no applause is given. It is the courage to decline. What is easy for what is meaningful, to say no without hostility, because your boundaries are not built on anger, but on dignity. And when you act from dignity, you radiate an energy that cannot be imitated. Others may not always understand you. Some will call you rigid, others arrogant, but that is because they cannot comprehend the cost of self-respect. Only those who live with discipline know its beauty. If you claim that you value time, then honor it not only for yourself but for others. If you profess that you value excellence, let it echo in every detail of your life, in your work, in your words, in the way you hold a conversation, in how you show up when no one is watching. Excellence is not an act of performance. It is a state of being. It is woven into the fabric of who you are, and it does not change depending on the audience. When you lower your standards for approval, you do not elevate others. You diminish yourself. You trade permanence for temporary applause, and the applause will fade. It always does. What remains is the quiet regret of knowing you betrayed yourself to belong to a crowd that never truly cared. The essence of strength is the willingness to stand alone when necessary, to choose solitude of a dilution, because solitude with integrity is infinitely richer than connection bought at the price of self-betrayal. Luxury is not a possession, it is a discipline. It is the relentless devotion to purity, to principles that do not shift like sand. The rarest treasures are those that remain unaltered by the passing of time. So too is the soul that stands firm in its truth. Let the world chase trends and applause. You hold fast to what is eternal within you. Let your life whisper the quiet power of consistency. Because in a world that bends for everything, the one who refuses to bend becomes unforgettable. These 6 keys, rarity, presence, simplicity, emotional exclusivity, subtle signals, and unshakable standards, are not about arrogance. They're about alignment with your highest self. When you embody these qualities, you don't need to chase validation. The world will lean toward you naturally, because true luxury doesn't ask for attention. It commands it become rare, become timeless, become unforgettable.